Today, I suppose we're having a showdown between Dior Homme, and then another Dior Homme, which is on the table, which I'll show you in a second. So, if you could see, up close up, here's one Dior Homme, specifically for men. This is original. So, the other one is Dior Homme Intense, or Intense, whatever you want to call it. So, there's actually more Dior Hommes than this, but I don't have them, I have 3. And these are pretty much the main ones that any person would get, and I want to compare them. Because they do share some similar notes, and I find in particular the original and the All for Men are pretty similar in themselves. And the Intense version is a little bit different. It's really good though. So, I'm gonna start with these ones. So, the Dior Homme in general is a very, very popular men's fragrance. It has gotten a little bit of criticism because of its iris note, which is, some men think, oh, it's too feminine, it's a typical feminine floral. But I think it's a really good unisex scent in general. Kind of clean, fresh, sophisticated sort of fragrance. And, just its kind of own mix, its blend, its concoction is not your typical men's fragrance, which I like. It's unique. It's not in your face. It's not obnoxious. It's not like teenage boy trying to show off. Like I said, it's sophisticated. It's elegant. More of a mature male fragrance. So I'm going to start with this one, the original. It only has 3 notes: Tuscan iris, watermelon cardamom, and vetiver. So I'll put some on this wrist, I guess. And I've tried this before, and the iris note is the most apparent note you're getting here. So iris is one of my favorite notes, by the way, and it just reminds me of a nice garden. You're out in the garden in the morning, everything's covered in dew, everything's fresh. And this really gets that kind of vibe, that nice fresh garden, springtime sort of smell, contrasted by the cardamom. The cardamom here, cardamom is a spice. I would say it is present, but it's a little bit faint compared to the iris, because the iris is really, really, out there. But the cardamom does give it a nice little kind of tingly, warm sensation. The vetiver is probably the weakest note here. That's not to say it's not there. You can smell it, but it's faint. It's that faint, kind of dry, grassy note. Overall, this is very fresh. Like I said, very clean, modern sort of thing, and just very pleasant. It's a bit on the fainter side in terms of kind of power. But again, that's kind of what you want if you want a more mature, sort of sophisticated scent. You don't want to fumigate the room or anything. Very nice business scent, formal sort of scent. Now, I'm going to compare it with the All for Men. And the All for Men has slightly different notes. So, I'll put it on this wrist. And okay, so the immediate thing I get, there's iris in it, but it's in the middle notes. The Tuscan iris is in the heart notes. The top notes here are grapefruit, bergamot, and coriander. And that's really what you get when you first put it on. You really get that fresh, sharp, tingly citrus note. Yeah, really, this is even cleaner and fresher smelling than the original. And interestingly, you get that, then it immediately dives into the iris note, and the base notes are Virginia cedar and amber. So for the most part so far, I'm getting the citrus notes, not really too much on the coriander here, I don't really get that. Citrus, and then it dives into the iris. I do get a little bit of the base notes, mostly mostly the amber. The cedar's a little bit weak, but the amber is really, really good. It gives it a nice warmth, which, you know, obviously is a nice counteraction between those really bright, light citrus notes. This is very pleasant. Because of how strong the citrus notes are, the iris is a little bit understated compared to the original. But it's still very pleasant. You still get that nice flowery note. I would say it's a little bit more masculine compared to the original. Probably because of the citrus notes. Citrus are very common in men's fragrances. Now, I will also say, the original is already fading a little bit, while I think the citrus notes here are just have a stronger presence, so they're more prominent. But it's really the citrus that differentiates them here, because otherwise they're pretty similar. It's just the citrus is super strong, and it pairs really well with the iris. So this is more of just a true citrus slash iris kind of floral fragrance. Now I'm going to try also the intense version. And even smelling it out of the bottle, you know, you could tell it's a stronger sort of fragrance. I guess I'll just put it on the back of my hand. And there's also, okay, yeah, this is actually a huge departure from these other two. So the list here says the top notes are lavender, middle notes are iris, musk mallow or ambrette, pear, and then Virginia cedar and vetiver. So I think this is my favorite variation, actually. Okay, so this is super different because even though it has the same, you know, the iris and the cedar, the vetiver sort of thing, the difference here, I would say, is this musk mallow, because you get this very unusual scent. It's like spicy, but then it's sweet, and then it just kind of counteracts spicy, sweet, you know, back and forth. The lavender opening, very, very pleasant. Same level of pleasantness as, you know, iris. The iris itself, it's sweeter compared to, say, the iris in the original. The lavender is actually on the fainter side compared to the iris. The iris is actually taking more of the center stage here compared to the lavender, but also, it could be the pear note, which is kind of an unusual note to have, but there is definitely more of a sweetness in general with this fragrance. I imagine some men might not like it. Maybe they think it's too feminine. I think it's, as with the other ones, a really good unisex. This is like, there's something really rich about it, and kind of warm. I imagine it's the cedar and the vetiver mixed with the musk mallow. And then as it kind of dries down, the iris becomes even more prominent, you know, even just really, that's like the main note you're gonna get, in addition to the musk mallow. So it's very, very pleasant. So my thoughts here, in terms of all three Dior Homme variations. The original is probably the faintest, but it has one of the strongest iris notes. You know, that's like the core. Then the Oh for Men, that one has the most obvious citrusy notes, then blended with the iris. And it's a little bit stronger than the original, and a little bit more masculine than the original. And probably a little bit better on the longevity. Then the intense version. That musk mallow is really an important note mixed with the iris, because you get this kind of muskiness, you know, this very interesting, unusual note. mixed with the sweetness of the iris. I would say the Intense version is the sweetest, but I'm not saying this is a very sweet, sugary fragrance, because it's not. I'm just saying out of these, which are actually pretty not very sweet at all, relatively dry fragrances, the Intense one is the most sweet. You're gonna get more of that authentic, sweet iris note. And at the same time, it's constantly counteracted by the ambrette, which brings it down and makes sure it's not too sweet. And then it also is smoothed out by the vetiver and the Virginia cedar, which makes it delicious, in my opinion. It's really good. It's like if you want something a little bit warmer compared to the other Dior Hommes. But yeah, all of them are really good. If I had to pick one to be my favorite, I would say it's probably a tie between Oil for Men and the Intense version. Maybe even the Intense version might be the one my favorite, but like I said, they're all really good, all sophisticated, all like luxury. I mean, they're all from Dior, so you can't hardly go wrong with them. But yeah, I really like the kind of different little details between them, the little differences. But that's pretty much all I have to say about these 3 variations of Dior Homme. If you have any opinions about them, or any questions, you can leave those down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.